I'm new to Burlington, recently moved from Alberta for my medical residency and plan on staying here. Um, I was asked to speak about my journey, why I decided to choose plant-based diet through the beginning of medical school journey and then eventually became vegan soon after. Well, in my family, there's been a lot of disease for a really long time. I have lost a lot of family members, a cousin at the age of 30 to cancer, an uncle at the age of 40 to cancer, a few other family members to diabetes and heart disease. And every time I looked at that, I just could not comprehend what I was hearing, that this must be genetic. This must be just like bad luck, or we just didn't use enough medical interventions. No one ever talked about how this could have been prevented, or how it can be prevented in the rest of the family or in the general population as a whole. So when I went into medical school, I had a huge passion for the prevention side of things and the lifestyle side of things. And as much as I wanted to understand and get a deeper understanding of pathophysiology of disease and the new technological advances and medical interventions, I also wanted to understand how we can prevent these. What are the simplest things that we're doing wrong that we just need to be doing better? And throughout the first semester of my medical school, as I went through lectures and read up, I realized that was just not the focus, which is unfortunate. Though they would bring up a bit of diet here and there and a bit of the focus on exercise, it just was not ever the focus. And then we did have a few dietitians come in and teach some nutrition courses, and it was really unfortunate that some of the stuff being taught was so outdated. Even the new Canadian food guide that came out around the same time as the first year of medical school was not even something any of the dietitians that were teaching at medical school even knew about. They were still recommending dairy for bones, even though the Canadian food guide took out dairy and does not recommend it as a requirement for a healthy diet, but that was still being taught. Their turning point was one of the cardiology lectures when they were talking about heart disease. They asked all of us to look at our friends, the person on our right and then the person on our left. And the professor, who's a cardiologist, goes, well, you've looked at two of your friends. Based on statistics, one of them is going to end up with heart disease. Because 50% of Canadians and North Americans as a whole end up with heart disease. And I was just so boggled by that. I was like, okay, you're stating some facts, but I was like, are you going to go deeper into why that's the case? What can we do? Is that how it is around the world or just here? Is it something we're just doing with? That is not something he touched on. He then went, later on, he went on to talk about children and said, by the age of 10, most kids in North America have plaques in their arteries. Again, a fact. A fact that's good to know, but like, what do I do with that fact? Eventually, he'd start discussing different medical interventions and surgical options and what to do when someone's diagnosed and the type of tests we need to be doing. But they never talked about why any of this is happening. And that was the day I left the lecture really, really dissatisfied with my medical journey. And that's when I decided to take my own deep dive into the literature. And I wanted to know, what does the data that we have so far has to say? I was expecting to maybe find a study or two looking into some of this stuff. I was appalled at the amount of studies we already have on all these chronic diseases and the role of diet, nutrition, and overall lifestyle. But no one was talking about it. It just buried. And I just kept digging deeper and deeper and deeper, and I just saw a trend that societies that were eating predominantly plant-based or fully plant-based, especially the blue zones, tend to live longer, and they did not have all these diseases at the rate we have it. And then on top of that, I started coming across studies that looked at specific diseases and the role of diet and nutrition in regards to that, and what they found in regards to the reversal of certain diseases, and especially the preventative side of things. And again, over and over and over, the focus was that whole food plant-based is something we should be incorporating, be it predominantly or 100%. That is what the focus should be. Fiber, something that no one ever talks about unless someone has constipation, was something over and over and over shown to help prevent majority of diseases. Where does fiber come from? Plants, but no one was talking about that. And things that people eat in our society, lot different type of meats, red meat, chicken, pork, eggs, dairy, they over and over were showing the more you eat them, the higher the risk of a variety of these diseases that I was trying to understand how to prevent. And after learning all of that, I was like, I need to go plant-based. I want to go plant-based. At the time, I had a few of my own health conditions that I was suffering with. I have suffered with migraines all my life. My mom has also had migraines, so I've seen multiple neurologists, and every time I was told it must be genetic, your mom has it, and prescribed different medications. I also suffered with really bad acne and severe eczema, and overall constant fatigue that I experienced for a very long time, and I was never okay with considering how young I am. And soon after going plant-based, over the course of the weeks, one thing I noticed was that my skin cleared up. Eczema significantly got better, that I didn't need to use medications. And the thing that I hated the most, that disturbed my functionality, being able to attend lectures or go out at times, was the migraines. And I have not had a migraine for over 4 years now. And that is something that we unfortunately don't talk about, because a lot of patients come in with these conditions and we right away jump into different medical treatments. And yes, we should be using those treatments either when the lifestyle stuff is not working or not enough, or if a patient simply is not interested. But I don't think we should be ignoring that entire piece. For example, cancer. I've lost 2 very important people in my family to cancer, and few diagnosed who are going through treatment. But no one talks about that 1/3 of cancers have been found, or the researchers suggest that 1/3 of the cancers could be fully prevented with diet and nutrition alone. And yet, no one talks about it. And the number 1 killer now has become cancer in Canada. Heart disease, the number 2 killer in Canada, and number 1 in the United States. No one's talking about the role of saturated fat that comes from animal products. No one's talking about diet as a whole and how shifting it can completely reduce your cholesterol levels and your blood pressure numbers, which will eventually lead to longevity. After learning all of that and making the changes, I was curious to learn more about the role of diet in just different aspects of life, and that's where I came across documentaries and studies in regards to the role of diet for animals, as well as from the sustainability point of view. At the time, I was like always saying I want to be sustainable, but I never realized that the data shows that the number 1 thing an individual can do from a sustainability focus to reduce the carbon footprint is changing their diet. That is one thing that we can do as an individual. And when I learned that, that's when I decided to go fully vegan. And that's when I realized that I can't just be compassionate for the people around me and for my patients, but rather I want to be compassionate towards the animals and not involve them as much as possible in just me being able to live day-to-day life and for my luxuries. And as well, compassionate to people around the world, because when we reduce our carbon footprint, it has a positive impact on people around the world that live thousands of miles away from us, who suffer from our choices way more than we can imagine. And that's what eventually led me to go vegan and plant-based. And that's around 2 minutes. So I have 2 minutes, so if anyone has any questions, otherwise I can always chat with you on the side.
You said cancers that can be prevented, specifically which cancers?
So one big one is colon cancer. That's like the biggest one that can be prevented if we reduced animal products. Then there's other cancers as well that have been shown where the diet plays a role. So if we overall reduce our diet, breast cancer has also been shown where diet plays a big piece of the role, not 100%, but big piece of the role. So we could overall prevent different type of cancers and definitely the frequency of it that we're seeing currently.
Is soy actually bad for breast cancer?
So that was actually a question I had because a lot of people talk about soy in a very negative way. And at the time when I decided to go vegan over 4 years ago, I was concerned where am I going to get protein and also all the negative things I had heard about. This is before I took my nutrition certifications. I did them through med school on the side part-time. But interestingly, the estrogen found in soy is actually quite different. It's plant-based estrogen. It works very differently in the body than the animal estrogen, and it has actually been shown to be the opposite of the mammalian estrogen in our body. It blocks or it gets used by the receptors for estrogen receptors and reduces the impact of mammalian estrogen, and been shown to actually reduce the negative consequences from a high estrogenic diet or high estrogenic body.
And is it true, people like vegans live longer than people that eat lots of meat, basically?
So again, based on the data, where we can draw this from is mostly the blue zones. And when we look at the blue zones, not everyone is vegan. However, a certain portion of the blue zones is vegan. But what's been found is when people are eating either predominantly plant-based, like predominantly healthy vegan diet, or fully, and predominantly I would say like 90 to 95% of calories coming from whole food plant-based, or 100%, they tend to live longer than an average population.
One more question.
Okay, one more question. Okay, so yeah, good question. Seafood is a tricky one. It does have mixed data when it comes to health because it has certain benefits from the omega-3 aspect. However, overall, when the studies have compared plant protein with seafood protein, plant protein has tended to do overall much better. So plant protein has been shown by data to be a much healthier option. And then by going with that, you're also reducing the potential consumption of toxins that may be found in the oceans and plastic and things like that. It may not be as bad as beef and certain other types of meats, but it's still been shown to be not as good as plant protein option. Okay, well, thank you so much.